In today's episode, we're diving into a transformative approach to fitness and well-being with our special guest, Alicia Jones. Alicia, she challenges the common misconception that more exercise is always better. How many of us have gone that extra lap around the block or, gone on an extra bike ride? But instead, she emphasizes the importance of quality over quantity, especially as we gracefully age. So according to Alicia, the secret to a strong, energized, and vibrant life well into your 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond lies in understanding and honoring the shifts in our food and fitness needs. So tune in as we explore how to adapt those strategies to live your healthiest and most fulfilling life at any age. This podcast is brought to you by DJ Works Media and HalftimeSuccess.com, offering resources and insights for those at mid-career or the halftime of life. Explore our diverse categories, including courses, coaching, health, music, software, and travel. We're here to help you make this stage of life your best ever. So get our new articles, downloads, and podcasts by signing up for weekly updates at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Well, I'm so happy to have Alicia with us today. And Alicia, you have quite the background, and we have a wonderful topic because I've entitled this Lose the Pouch with Healthy Living. So I had to look at my notes there for a second. But yeah, I mean, anybody who starts, gracefully growing older, you're going, oh gosh, there's weight in all the wrong places now. What? How do I deal with this?
I never had this before. And now it's like, what's going on? Yeah.
Yes. What's going on?
Yes. Totally understand.
Yes. So, Alicia, give us a little bit of your background, why you're focusing on this right now. And just all of that. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I've been working with the over 50 population and over 40, anybody really going through perimenopause all the way to postmenopause since 2006. So it's been almost 2 decades that I've been working specifically with this demographic. And I decided to do that because, well, not only was I having clients in this demographic that I absolutely loved, but growing up, I ended up having an experience where my grandmother was very ill. And she was very ill because she was a smoker. She was a nurse, but back then it was not considered bad to smoke. It was, just what you did. So even though she was a nurse, she smoked. And so later on in life, she had a lot of health issues, heart disease. And my mother was a single mother taking care of me at the time. And my grandmother was the one who was taking care of me when my mom went away to work. And my grandmother soon couldn't take care of me, even though, her house, and we were taking care of her because she was ill because of smoking, and back then it wasn't even considered to be bad for your health. So anyways, as time passed, she passed away, but my mother was getting to the age that she was when my grandmother was when she passed. But the difference was my mother never smoked a day in her life. She didn't drink really all that often, and she ate fairly healthy. And so she was able to do all of these trips with me. She was able to do all of these athletic events with me. And so what was happening was I was having clients in the 50 plus category, and I'd say, hey, there's this charity event. Let's do all of these stair climbing, climb the CN Tower here in Canada. And they'd say, I'm too old. And, I can't come back and say anything about that because at the time I was in my 20s. So what am I going to say to that, right? So I have a mother who was 72 at the time. And my mom was like, I will do this event with you. So my slogan was, if she's 72, so can you. And so to really see the vast difference of what happens when you take care of yourself, when you push past those beliefs of I'm too old or I can't do it, and see what that difference of your health and well-being could be. That's why I started to really focus in on the over 50 population, because we have so much potential to live a very healthy, vibrant quality of life, and make those decisions to help it go in that direction.
I absolutely love that. And actually, it's the reason I'm booking active tours right now for our travel for my husband and I. It keeps us in shape. I tell you what, and I just booked another one next year that's a bike riding, and we're going through Portugal and bike riding. And I tell you, he is out right now as I'm interviewing this. He's already training for this next one.
Are you doing a guided bike ride tour? Oh,
yes.
I would love to put on a retreat that is with a bike rided tour like that, because that's something, again, I'm passionate about too. I love it.
Yeah, you're plenty young. You'll be able to do that. So, but yeah, but it's wonderful because it does. And so I'm booking in at least one a year for hiking, extra physical activity. And, we're getting to the stage where you just have to be kind of careful. You can trip anywhere. I mean, I was on a walk yesterday. You can slip on rocks almost anywhere. But, it's really good to have those sort of goals and looking ahead. So I love that.
Participants in my programs and clients even that I have that are like, listen, I have this huge walking trip next year and I'm just not ready for it. I don't want to be sitting in the hotel when there are all these amazing things I could do, or it's their dream trip that they were dying to do when they retired. Mm-hmm. And so I can really understand that. It's so important to have your strength and your health. And it is nice for the pictures if you can,
of course,
your outfit without the pooch, right?
Oh my gosh, we are so self-critical. I tell you, I really am. It's hard looking at video and the pictures. So I think this is such a relevant topic. And, the audience here, most of the audience, mid-career, half-time of life, which officially comes after the age of 40. It comes very, very fast. And because the body starts changing and a lot of your focus of your life even starts changing. It depends on if you've had family and how late that is. But so let's talk a little bit about calorie counting, because a lot of us growing up, it's like, okay, and this was a big deal too. Low fat. Oh my goodness. Low fat or low carb or whatever, so do you need to cut calories and to lose weight? What type of calories too? Because one of our sons was a trainer. So I learned that the type of calories were important. And so kind of talk about that a little bit.
And especially for women, the type of calories that you get in are very important. For both men and women, especially with age, protein is incredibly important because our lean mass is so valuable for quality of life, for strength. And the more you can hold on to that lean muscle, the more you rev up your metabolic rate, which is something we're getting into with fat loss today. But what is really interesting when it comes to calories, I know there is this, it's always been like, hey, you've got to restrict your calories. You've got to cut calories. You've got to move more and eat less. That's just what you're supposed to do. But when you actually take a look at the research, the amount that you need to eat to lose weight, you can get some weight loss, you can get some fat loss with only as little as about a 250 calorie deficit. And now when you're taking a look now at that 250 calorie deficit, and you take a look also with age, because it is true with age, we do start to have a slower metabolism. That's why we're working on keeping that, revving up that metabolic rate and burning more fat. But if you take a look at somebody in their 20s who is active, and somebody who in their 50s becomes active and gets active, there's only about a deficit of 250 calorie difference, which means that if you're saying to yourself, oh, now I'm at a certain age, my metabolism is very slow, I don't need to eat that much. And then on top of it, you're doing calorie restriction, which is also cutting calories. This is a huge mistake. People are cutting their calories way too much. And so you end up you slow your metabolic rate down more.
Right.
You're burning your muscle. You're breaking down the muscle, which then slows your metabolic rate further. And it takes with it the strength and tone. And tone is a big deal. Like I've had clients who come to me and they're like, I've lost weight. I've lost a certain amount of weight, but I'm fluffy all over, like flabby. I'm not toned. I'm not strong, or can't get up from the seated position, right? Like it's hard to death. And it's because with their weight loss also went a lot of their lean mass. And that's something you need to work on with age.
Oh, you are talking to me, and what happened in a lot of the shutdowns, all of a sudden I've noticed little areas that are like not as firm as they were because I had such a strict, my husband he was a pro athlete. So he put me on, I had all of my index cards for my workouts, but I threw all of those away, all of us, oh, well, yeah, we'll just sort of whatever. During all of the shutdowns. But boy, it made a difference in the body. And not just age, but it was the routine. And I know we're going to talk about that. I'm really excited to talk about that as well. So let's talk about, I love the fact that you mentioned calorie counting, though, because you slow down that metabolism, all of that, you're starving the body then. And I've known people that have hardly eaten a thing then, and no, I still can't lose weight. Well, it's just, look what you, yeah.
Why. Yeah. And I think it's terrifying if you think about it because of all of the years we've heard eat less, or maybe that even did work in your 20s because in your 20s, you could do anything basically.
Anything.
And you lost weight, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that it was healthy or fueling the body properly, but it would get the results and you wouldn't look the quote unquote fluffy because you were able to maintain and enhance lean muscle at that point.
Right.
So it's a lot different. Yeah.
Really, really good point. And I mean, at this stage, I don't count calories, but I do watch what I eat. And I think that's important with the protein. So about this one, why do some women, and I know you're going to talk about men as well, experience like more body aches and pains with like all of that weight gain in different places and all the wrong places, actually. So why all of this is happening at this stage? Of course, our body's getting a little older, but what if we've continued to work out and we're like, okay, so what's happening? Things are breaking down.
Yeah. So I don't think there's any secret that for women, we go through hormone shifts. And that is a big reason actually for women going through perimenopause into menopause. Some women start to feel really inflamed. So really achy, even if they're doing the right things and they feel like they're eating properly, they feel achy, they feel inflamed because hormones are shifting. And there are two big types of hormones that are shifting, and they're both estrogen. So that it seems like it's like, oh yeah, I know my estrogen levels drop, and estrogen is anti-inflammatory. But at the same time as your estrogen levels drop, your other estrogen levels increase. We have 3 types of estrogen in our body.
Okay, 3. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Which is fascinating because we always talk, and even I talk a lot about how estrogen drops and how it helps with inflammatory factors. So if estrogen levels are dropping, you don't have that protection anymore. But estrone is a type of estrogen that's in fat. So as we start to lose estradiol, I always call it estradiol, but anyways, estradiol. As you start to lose that anti-inflammatory estrogen, with fat, you increase your inflammatory estrogen. And men can actually have this type of estrogen as well. So if you notice men that start to look like they have breasts, they're having a higher factor of this type of estrogen in their body. So whether you're a man that is starting to notice those fat deposits in your chest, or whether you're a woman that now there's extra weight, both of those inflammatory types of estrogen are increasing. So you feel achy, sore, you don't have the protective mechanism from the estrogen. And so that's one of the big reasons why women start to feel achy and sore. So it's about lowering inflammation, being a healthy weight where your inflammatory estrogen levels are lower, and just rehabilitating yourself a little bit so you're moving more in stretching and mobility exercises that are allowing for blood flow and allowing for the body to repair.
Yes, I like it. You mentioned stretching and blood flow because I always thought stretching was a waste of time. It's becoming more important. So, and we've done a little episode on that. And Greg, my husband, he's on with me once a month, and we've talked about that because he, as a former pro athlete as well, he's had to put all of this back, in his schedule, and it's a big part of his routine now, is all of that stretching. It is not a waste of time. So that is a really good point on that, and finding the right program that will, be good for you is important too.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So, how should we adapt? You touched on this just a little bit on the workouts, because you've added stretching. And what about for men? I mean, with women, what you notice with men a lot, it depends on what they eat too. I totally know that. But they'll start getting more of the belly. But so do we, and it's like I cut out certain foods now because it'll give me a belly. That I don't want, too many breads, which I love, by the way, homemade bread. Oh my goodness. That's a tough one for me to stay away from. But, but certain things, I just know it's just going to make me feel like really bloated and all of that. So why don't you talk about that just for, a little bit here?
Yeah. So, there are first and foremost, absolutely, there are certain foods, like if you're having too many refined carbohydrates, for example, then as we age, insulin sensitivity kind of declines. So we're more at risk for type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So maybe the amount of bread that you were eating before isn't the right amount now. And so there should be a shift with some proteins. I'm a big believer that you need to have everything in moderation if your body can handle it. But food sensitivities also tend to rise up more with age as the gut microbiome is changing. So basically how our gut health is, that can shift a lot as well, which then again can also make us feel more inflamed, feel bloated. And so there should be a shift as much as you can possibly do to a lot of vegetables, fermented vegetables for the gut microbiome. So, maybe kimchi or pickles. I love pickles.
Okay.
Like that. And, just starting to shift and have more of a focus on healthy macronutrients and how much you need with for example, your husband, he works out a lot. He's probably breaking down a lot of lean muscle. He may need a higher protein level than somebody that's more sedentary or just, I don't know how many times a day or a week you work out, but depending on what you're doing as well, that could shift.
Right. I've added a lot of nuts to my diet too, even when in the mornings, if I have, I'm very much a routine person. So I get my oatmeal, I add the fruit, but I also add chopped almonds. And so you want to make sure you have the protein with that, because I've already worked out early. So I do add, of course, I always love just fruit, but that's extra carbs and sugars. But adding that and making sure the protein is big. It just, and me, you want to grab something midday sometimes, and you go for the chocolate blueberries, and you're going to go, well, I'm going to have a big drop. I better go for like a handful of nuts or something like that. So,
and actually, what we know from the research is that now it's really important as we age to stagger our protein throughout the day. So, if, for example, in the morning you're having your oatmeal and your berries. And some nuts is a little bit of protein, but is there any way you can get more protein in? Like, can you do yogurt, or can you do, something along those lines? You're looking for about 20 to 30 grams of protein as we age per meal. So that doesn't necessarily mean for your snacks. If you're snacking, you may want just 15 grams of protein. But it's always about looking at your meal and saying, where's my protein? Where's my fruit or vegetable? And of course, healthy carbs are really important, especially for fiber. But we all love carbs. So you're probably anyways, right? Yeah. So for me, I always like to look at the plate and I say, protein check. Okay, now is there a vegetable or a fruit or something along those lines that's a food check? And then the rest of the plate can be with the complex carbohydrates.
Yeah, really, really a good point. And I started to add like a little kefir, the yogurt to my yogurt, to my oatmeal. But it just doesn't count how much protein. So I should probably do that. So that's a really good suggestion. I will start doing that a little bit. So, so why don't you explain a few of the downfalls but benefits? You've talked about the HIIT training, the HIIT. Explain what that is first, because we all see it. I mean, I see it on my exercise bike, or I see it on the exercise machine. Do you want to do this sort of training, or do you want to do intervals, whatever you want? So explain what that is and the benefits, the downfalls of that, because we see that everywhere now.
Yes. And for all of the exercises you see that are HIIT, I am going to ask, are you actually in a HIIT zone if you do it? So first, let me explain. HIIT is high intensity interval training. That means that there are short bouts of all out intensity. So you go until like you really can't talk, you're out of breath, and you're like, okay, let's stop now. And then you do bouts of rest in between before you do another bout of the all out intensity. These sessions are meant to be very short. So we're talking about anywhere from 3 minutes up to 10, maybe even 15, depending on what exactly you're doing, maximum. So if you're doing a HIIT workout and it's an hour that you found on YouTube, you are not doing HIIT. I can guarantee it. You would be on the floor. It would. So let's say you're doing a warm up, it's 5 minutes, and you do a cool down 5 minutes, and then you do a max 15 minutes of work in there. Then the longest you should ever see a HIIT workout is 15, 20, 25 minutes. That's it.
Wow.
And so the benefits of this and the reason why people are really working on this, and it is really important. One, it helps with your lung capacity. This is known as your VO2 max. So for your lung capacity, this is your ability to use oxygen, and it's a huge predictor of quality of life. This goes down with age. So as this goes down, you're not able to breathe as well, use oxygen as well. And your quality of life suffers quite a lot. So you have to work this system, and you can only work that system. You can't do it with a walk unless you're first starting out. You can only do it if you push yourself. The other thing is, especially studies for women going through postmenopause, it targets belly fat, abdominal fat specifically. And it's not like it can't spot reduce. Yeah, like you can't say, hey, okay now. But what ends up happening is overall, you have this use of oxygen that your body's trying to maintain or create this homeostasis, this balance in your body, and you have this huge disruption. And so your metabolic rate revs right up, trying to give you all the nutrients, all the calories, everything else you need to become balanced again. And so studies have shown that it specifically targets the pouch, which is what we're talking about today. And so the type of workout you definitely want to be doing. It also helps with insulin sensitivity. So again, you can have more bread without getting any sort of pouch there. So it's all around a really beneficial way of training, especially with age. Not to mention it's short. So, because one of the myths is do more and more and more. And with age, if we're trying to combat inflammation and breakdown of lean muscle, it's not about doing more. It's about quality. What is going to keep the lean muscle that we're working on, enhance lean muscle to keep the metabolic rate high, but also what's going to get us the most bang for our buck and best health without creating more inflammation or feeling achy or sore for days.
Right. That is great advice. And that's why some of those gyms are opening that say, okay, it's only a 25-minute workout, or it's whatever. But people don't have a whole lot of time. And so by being able to fit something like that in, if it's a true HIIT workout, is very, very valuable. And I loved how you mentioned lung capacity. I tell you, that is something I have struggled a little bit more with. That's why I walk hills at least once a week. I walk the hills around where our area is. And it just kills me. I mean, I'm just by that first hill, I'm just like, what? I grew up like singing. I grew up with, working out. Why am I so out of breath? But you have to make sure you're breathing right. So I've stopped now and make sure I just take time to even breathe in my stretching and breathe correctly, which is exactly how I've taught voice students for years and years. So, and when you mentioned like the belly fat, of course, and you see a million advertisements about belly fat. Oh, just cut out these foods for belly fat. And they get you, you're going, so what? And then they string you along. But yes, with the belly fat and with the carbs, it just really makes sense for those short little workouts and how, that works for you. So great point.
And as we talked about, it has to be HIIT. So for example, if you're going up that hill and you can't breathe, then you're probably in HIIT.
Oh,
The problem
interesting.
is that, yes, yeah. The problem is people do it and they're like, "Oh, I'm starting to feel out of breath. I need to stop
Yes.
now and breathe, or I need to stop because my heart
Yeah.
can't handle this." And
Mm.
it's that fine line. Like, I don't want to scare anybody. It's not
Mhm.
like you don't want to go to pass out or anything like that. But
Mhm.
you want to get to a point where it's really hard for you to breathe and you want to take that rest before you make it really hard to breathe again, because that's literally like increasing that VO2 max potential, your lung capacity potential,
Oh,
or your ability to sing or do other
yes.
activities later on. So it's so important to do
Mm.
that. And I personally like what my clients or participants in my program to have a heart rate monitor on at the time, because
Uh,
we are disconnected almost from what it feels like to actually get into that zone. So if you're just
yes.
starting out with high intensity,
Mhm.
some people, they're like, I'm totally fine. I can keep on going. And then I
Yeah.
take a look at their heart rate and they're in the zone. I mean, a long time.
Wow.
Like, you have to stop yourself because there's that disconnect. And so you
Yes.
end up pushing yourself too far. And then
Mm.
once the workout is done, you say, now I feel sick, or now
Yes.
I feel good because you over pushed. But on the
Mhm.
other extreme, you might start to feel out of breath and say, I can't do
Mhm.
this. I want to push myself into that level. And
Right.
you're so close to getting to that level, you just need to say, okay, one more hill or one more, I'll get there. And
Yeah.
so it's really important to understand that you're in that zone, because otherwise
Yes.
you're wasting your time.
I'm so excited though, because when you said I'm probably in the hit zone going up that hill, I'm excited now. I'm going to tell the whole group we're all in the hit zone, because it's like, okay, can't talk till the top of the hill. Can't talk till the top.
You can tell them that
Yes.
as going up the hill,
Yeah.
then you're not in the hit zone.
Yeah. 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 That's really fun, because there are some that continue talking the whole way, but I'm usually taking my time on that. So I'll talk at the top of the hill. Well, so you've also mentioned some of the mistakes in this type of training, which was, I think, important to approach, because if you're doing too much, and I tend to add just that the harder training to be able to feel like I'm burning more calories, more of the cardio and all of that, but really adding the weights and adding the stretching has a whole different benefit, and you are still working out big time, and it just feels different. See, it just feels different, like we're just not exhausting the body. So um, I want you to kind of get into these muscle groups, because that's important. And as people think, and that's some of the mistakes, I think, right? As the, thinking you need more cardio or more the heart rate thing, but really the muscle groups. So why don't you talk about that again, the small muscle groups, and what should we be working on?
Okay, so when people go for a walk, one of the first things I see, and I
Mm-hmm.
really want to go up to them, but I know that would be rude. I see them carry hand weights, these little hand weights, and sometimes they're with their friends and
Uh-huh.
they're kind of wagging their arms and they're like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm doing my weights now and I'm multitasking. I'm getting my weight training in and I'm getting my walk in. I've made my walk harder. And so this is benefiting me, but it's not. You can happily put the weights down.
Wow.
Okay. For two reasons. One, you talked about the little muscle groups. So we're going to talk about that. But
Mm-hmm.
another reason is because you're not creating enough stimulus on the muscle
Mm.
actually make any change to enhance the lean muscle, which then makes you tone and revs up your metabolic rate. So
Mm.
let's start there. When you go for a walk, if you're lifting weights over and over again, it's not doing anything, right? You need to be able to want to put that weight down depending on your repetition range. But let's say 12 repetitions, you're like, I can't do this anymore. And by
Mm-hmm.
15 repetitions, you want to put the weight down and it's time to
Yes.
put the weight down. So if you're going for a walk, I don't think you're doing 15 walking steps with those weights, putting the weights down and doing that again. So it's not heavy enough. But the other
Mm-hmm.
issue is that it's a very small muscle group. So your strength, your quality of life and that metabolic rev up happens based
Mm-hmm.
on how much lean mass you worked that needs to be repaired and disrupts this homeostasis where there's balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, don't work a small little bicep muscle. Work the big muscles or whole body exercises like sitting to standing, like a squat or a
Mm-hmm.
plank or push-up of some kind, even if you're elevated, because it works so much more muscle and it's much more of a quality movement that even with one or two moves can get you way more benefit, especially for fat loss, than if you were to do just little arms. And so the idea usually is, hey, if I work my arms, I want them to be toned. I don't want to fly away in the wind. One of my clients said that to me.
Yes.
Because my arms are wobbly. I want
Yep, this little part.
yeah. So people say that to me. And the thing is that it's just because you work that area. Yes, muscle will be underneath, but it doesn't take away the fat or really tone up for you. You want to work those big muscle groups. That's what you want to do.
And that's interesting that you say big muscle groups, because it's why I hate lunges and with the weights, and there was another workout that my husband Greg gave me too, and I called it Dairyman, but they're really just heavy weights and carrying them, but it was, heavy enough for me, it's like, okay, I had to put them down at the end, but you build up strength. And now, doing those lunges with a weight that's heavy enough, changing arms, it's been good because my doctor told me I had osteoporosis. So, I had to do a certain amount of things. And he said, you need to do those large muscle groups. You need to keep on that to, it's hereditary. I know it's hereditary, but it really kind of got me thinking, ooh, okay, I better be more proactive in this and, doing, with the push-ups, everything else. So stuff that I hate. But doing those larger, little, and the weights don't need to be so super, super heavy that we can hardly carry them. But I think when you said the repetitions to where you have to put them down is important. And, it's the repetitions making the difference. And you always hear this. I've heard this, but, how often do we really, really do it? That's important.
And it is important. Like the amount of repetitions you do will vary depending on what the end goal is and where you are in your journey. So if 15 repetitions gets you to a lot different place than 10 repetitions, for example. Yeah. So it's really different, and you do need to cycle yourself through them to different repetition ranges.
Yeah. I think that's really, really important. And I've really tried to be, it's a mindset for me. It's just a mindset and just saying, I'm going to do this. I'm putting this in. And that's why the index cards helped me, because it gave me that program and like, okay, I got to get it through this, so it's a guide there. So just give us, as we're kind of winding down here, give us an ideal weekly schedule. How often are people asking now? Okay, so how often do I really need to do this? Or, how do we vary that maybe throughout the week?
Yes. Well, the good news is, especially if you're really busy with weight, you only need to do 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay.
So if you're just starting and you're like, this is a lot. I don't want to. I think people end up trying to schedule something absolutely every single day. And then what ends up happening for many, not for you because you sound very structured, which is excellent. But some people, they're like, okay, I'm supposed to walk on my off weight training days and then do my weight training on that day. And then this and this, they overwhelm themselves. So they do it for like a month when that motivation's really high. It's like, look, I'm on this new program. Yay. And then a month passes. They no longer have that same motivation. A day they end up getting pulled off track or, an emergency happens. You're going to see life, So something happens and then you don't do that day. And then it's like a snowball effect. Oh, well, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. And then it doesn't get done. And then you feel like you're off track.
Right.
So really suggest if you're starting with weight training, you do 2 to 3 times a week. And if you do the HIIT or other forms of activity on your off weight training days, great. But try to solidify that as a habit first before you add anything else.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I really like that. I try to vary my workouts, but I work out most every day. I have one day that I just do a longer walk. Walking is important too. Just getting outside for me is a good one. Plus my dog needs it. That's always my excuse. But but I think just the routine of that is important, and varying it around too for just interest. It gets a little, doing the same thing, but I think the variation of that, keeping it interesting, keeping it fun. If you need a little program or if you need a little video to watch, I have an exercise bike that has a video on it. But I changed the program into doing a whole routine of an in studio. Usually I like, because we'll go to destinations and I get, but I can double dip on those. I can always do reading at the same time as we're in the, so I thought, I don't want to, I need to be better. Don't double dip. Pay attention, make sure I'm doing, everything at this, and so it's really pushed me doing in this particular. So I knew I needed to change my routine up a little bit, even though I'm doing the bike. So I think all of us, we know the shortcuts we're taking, so we can change them around if we need to. So,
yeah, and the type we were talking about the long,
yes,
slow walk, long walks.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
also really important, because I think people get into this thing where they're like, I have to do HIIT today, and then a really intense workout of weight training the next day, and then HIIT,
right,
and then so they end up overtraining, especially because recovery rates change with age.
Yes,
so you keep on breaking down muscle, which is what exercise is doing, and working systems. You're just creating more inflammation and more muscle breakdown.
Wow.
So you do need things like walks where you're leisurely walking or walking the dog, mixed in with your more higher intensities or your weight training, and days off from the intense things where maybe you're stretching, or if when you need time off, just days off where, you're doing regular activities. So it's so important to have that variation and not just be, pushing yourself really hard all the time, because it will not results.
Yeah. Really great advice. So great advice. Well, Alicia, I like to, even though I will have all of your information in the show notes, I always do that. And in many of these, not all of them, but there'll be an article. There's a weekly article that comes out, and usually I put all of your links in my newsletter blasts. I call them articles, that come. I don't spam people. It's not high sell. We just inform people what's happening. So, but why don't you give, for those who are just listening, give your information, what you provide, and then, but realize, those will all be in the show notes as well.
Yes. Okay. So first and foremost, I have a free masterclass that talks about the 3-phase fitness formula every woman over 50 needs to know. So kind of goes through some of this about the repetitions, how to start with weight training for fat loss, strength, and optimal health. So I'll give you the link for that masterclass. And you can find me most on YouTube. I love doing YouTube videos and sharing YouTube. So I'll give you that link as well. I'm also on Facebook, and you can see me at aliciajoneshealthyliving.com as well.
Good. That aliciajoneshealthyliving.com. That's a mouthful, but it's, I think usually on the websites, people can find all of those links. So that's really important. So thank you for sharing that. And again, everybody that listening, thank you for hanging on all the way. What a fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed this. I enjoy, actually, I want to keep healthy. I want to work. I don't want to quit. I want to keep going until, my kids put me in a home. So we'll see. But
that might not even happen. It just might.
It may not, so none of us want to get to that place, but who knows? But anyway, just thank you all for joining us. Goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. That's where you get the articles and you get all of the updates, every single podcast, so you don't miss a thing. And I don't spam you. I don't send you a lot of, all of a sudden when people sign up for something, it's like, oh, I'm getting something every day. No, you do not get that from me. I don't have time for that. Goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. And also I have a lot of websites. You can get them anywhere that you click in onto this podcast. So thank you so much, Alicia. This was a pleasure. Thank you for your time and your expertise that you shared. Always interesting. And it's interesting. Everybody has a little bit different slant. And I love that. It's just because you've focused on, especially that something people are facing right now at this stage of life. That belly fat and the, okay. And now I can't, so it's a little different. So, but anyway, well, thank you so much again for being with us, Alicia, and to everyone tuning in. Thank you for joining us, and I'll look forward to being with you again next time. So bye-bye for now. Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.